All right, friends, let's keep reading. Don't go to the principal's office. Exactly. Where would he bury her, though? Ted asked. She could be anywhere, I said. Ted sighed. Well, what do we do now? We dig, I whispered. We dig up the whole yard until we find his wife's body. Oh, that sounds awful, Bobby said. I just don't like the idea of digging up dead bodies, Rebecca said. Couldn't we go to Chief Gooseby again and tell him what we saw? He wouldn't come out here again tonight, I said. No, we have to do something ourselves. It wasn't even 8:30 yet, so we still had almost an hour and a half to do our work before we were supposed to be home. Where will we get the shovels? I have 4 shovels at my house, Ted said. Dad loves to garden, so he has all different kinds to dig with. Perfect, I said. Since Ted's garage was also detached from his house, we were able to get the shovels without anyone asking what we were doing. We each carried one and headed back towards Mr. Amsted's house. What if she's buried in the backyard? Rebecca asked when we got there. We peeked through the gate and saw the backyard still had grass in it. No, she's buried in the front yard, I insisted. This is the one that's dug up. Along each side of the yard were rolls of grass turf. It's a good thing we're doing this now, Ted said, because they're probably going to put down that turf tomorrow, and then we'd never find Mrs. Amsted's body. I wonder what she was like, Rebecca said. We'll never know, I said. She couldn't have been too wonderful if she was married to somebody like Mr. Amsted, Bobby said. You never know, Rebecca said. Maybe he used to be nice. Maybe something happened to him during their marriage. You'd better believe something happened to him. He started operating on kids' brains and sawing women in half. I looked at my watch. We'd better start digging, I said. It's already 9:30. What if we don't find her body before 10 o'clock, Bobby asked. What do we do then? Let's not think about it, I said. Let's just get started. Where'll we start? For some reason, the front lawn looked bigger than it had earlier. I can't imagine digging up the whole thing. Then it hit me. The center. We'll start in the center. The front lawn was divided by the front walk that led up to the steps to the front porch. I reasoned that Mr. Amsted had buried his wife in the center of one of those squares. That makes sense, Bobby said. Ted and I started digging on the left, and Rebecca and Bobby started digging on the right. Do you think she's 6 feet under? Ted asked. What do you mean? Graves are supposed to be 6 feet down in the ground. I doubt it. I think he just buried her deep enough so he could cover her with turf. But after 4 shovelfuls of earth, I was ready to quit. This is hard work. I don't think I could ever work in a cemetery. Who'd want to? I was just thinking about summer jobs when I'm in college, I said. I suddenly realized we had stopped digging and were wasting time talking about something several years off. So I put my shovel back in the ground and in just a couple minutes had struck something. It's her, I cried. Not so loud, Ted hissed. I kept shoveling, but Bobby and Rebecca had heard me and came over to our side of the lawn. Come on, help me, I said to the 3 of them. They started shoveling around in the same place. Bones, Rebecca cried. In the moonlight, we could see something white lying in the ground. You're right, Bobby whispered. There was something strange about this, though. How could she already have decayed? I said. They all looked at me. Oh, I think I know, Ted said, and if it's true, it's horrible. I saw it in a horror movie once. What? Bobby asked. He poured acid on her after he sawed her in 2, and it dissolved all of her skin. Gross. Oh, yuck, Rebecca said. That has to be what it is, though, Ted said. What a horrible man. Well, it doesn't matter. We'll just take her skeleton to Chief Gooseby, I said. I know there are policemen who can determine that this skeleton belongs to Mrs. Amsted. Ted started digging again. The rest of us followed. This bone sure is long, Bobby whispered. I've never seen a bone this long. Maybe it's her leg bone, Rebecca said. She must have been a really tall person, I said. She must have been at least 7 feet tall. That makes sense, Ted said. He probably married some kind of freak just like him. Then all of a sudden, we were being sprayed by water. What's happening? I screamed. I tried to run, but the torn up yard was now so slippery that I kept falling down. The same thing was happening to Ted and Bobby and Rebecca. It's a trap, Bobby cried. It's a trap. Of course, I thought. Mr. Amstead had lured us back to his house in the dead of night, and we were trapped. We couldn't even stand up. It was so slippery. I kept getting mud in my eyes, but I had to do something. Help! Help! I cried. He's going to operate on our brains. He's going to saw us in half. The water was spraying everywhere, and the four of us continued to scream. I could see lights coming on all over the neighborhood. People were leaning out upstairs windows, shouting, "Be quiet down there! Be quiet!" What was wrong with these people, I wondered. Didn't they realize that 4 innocent kids were about to meet their death at the hands of the new principal? We continued to scream even louder. Surely someone would finally realize what was happening. Suddenly, Mr. Amstead's porch light came on. The front door opened, and Mr. Amstead was framed in the doorway. "No," I cried. "No, no, no, I don't want to die." "Run!" I heard Ted screaming. But how could we run? We kept sliding in the mud. Now Mr. Amstead was slowly walking down the steps of his front porch towards us. This was the end. I knew it. Then a car screeched to a halt in front of Mr. Amstead's house. Through mud-caked eyes, I could tell that it was Chief Goosby's patrol car. "We're safe! We're safe!" I cried and got a mouthful of mud. Then the water stopped. Chief Goosby was walking up the front sidewalk. He didn't even look at us. All 4 of us were sitting in the mud. "I called you because these young people were digging up my front lawn, Chief," Mr. Amstead said. "I think they may have damaged my sprinkler system." "Oh no, this can't be happening to us." I thought those weren't bones at all. They were the white plastic pipes for Mr. Amstead's lawn sprinkler system. "Well, I'll arrest them if you want me to, Mr. Amstead," Chief Goosby said. For several seconds, no one said anything. Then Mr. Amstead said something that sent terror through my heart. No, that's all right." He turned away from Chief Goosby and looked straight at us. "Monday morning, I'll call the 4 of you into my office and take care of this once and for all." Let's leave it here because this is the beginning of chapter 7.